Recording is started, and in this video we will discuss about agentic RAG. So what we will do, we'll try to understand with the analogy, but before that just a quick thing. Agentic plus RAG, right? So basically what we are trying to do is that we are trying to implement agentic system on the top of the standard RAG. So for that we need to understand the standard RAG, and then only we can understand the agentic RAG, right? So what we will do, we'll try to understand end to end so that you can explain it to anyone, and it is a very good criteria to judge whether we have understood or not. If we can explain it to anyone, it means that we have understood it correctly, right? So that is something we should always look for. Okay, so we will take an analogy that a librarian, right? Standard RAG is like a librarian who fetches one book, right? So there is a library. In that, the librarian will go, and if you hand over any question to that librarian, so it will finally look for the book where the question word matches, something like that it will try to do, right? Just for the analogy, and will give that thing to the LLM, and LLM will finally give us the grounded answer. Now what agentic RAG will do, the agentic RAG is like a researcher. The researcher reads the question and think about it, where to look, which section to pick, then read it, decide whether the answer is there or not. If not there, again go check where to look, read, and again verify whether the answer is there or not. So researcher will keep on doing all these things. So it can pick a different self, run a follow-up search once again, right? And it will keep on running in the loop. So it keeps running until the answer is found. So that is very important here. So if the researcher has to do a lot of work, the researcher will be slower definitely, but it can handle the question which needs many steps to find the answer. The librarian will be fast definitely, because it has to do a very less amount of work, but it cannot adapt to the question, means which needs many steps for the answer, right? So that is why the normal flow will not work, right? That is called the standard RAG, right? And this is the exact difference between from the analogy perspective, right? So agentic RAG is equal to RAG plus an AI agent that controls the retrieval steps. So in some time we will understand each and everything, don't worry about it. Okay, so we'll try to understand. So now what happens in the normal RAG, right? So before that, let's try to understand the RAG as well. So RAG stands for retrieval augmented generation, right? So what happens here is that user asks a question, and then we convert that question into numbers, which is called embeddings, and that with that embedding we try to look up into the vector database where we have all the data in which we have to look into, right? So from there the vector database will give us the top k chunks, whatever we have asked for, top 5, top 3, top 10, top 100, like that, and then those chunks we will give it to the LLM, and LLM will finally generate the answer. Simple, one straight flow, this will happen, no loop, nothing. So this is a normal standard RAG, right? And this will happen in the normal standard RAG, right? So and in between a lot of things can be done. So for example, here we can implement re-ranker, which will re-rank whatever we have retrieved from the vector database. So that is something can be implemented, but definitely that is the standard RAG, right? Not the agentic RAG. One simple flow. Now this will fail in production, right? But if you want to go and read about the AI agent, you can click here and go and learn about what exactly AI agent. So we already have blogs on all the system design, AI, machine learning topics, whatever we have, right? So you can just click here and check all the blogs we have. So many blogs I have written here, okay, with the simplification. So once you make a habit of coming daily morning on the Outcome School website and read one blog a day, it will make you great in 6 months. That I can guarantee 100%. This will happen if you make a commitment. Okay, now back to the topic. So first let's try to understand where the standard RAG will fail. So problem 1, the multi-hop question, right? So suppose the question is like this: what was the Q4 revenue of the company that acquired Acme in 2023? Suppose this is a question, right? So to find out the answer, first we need to find out which company got acquired, right? Sorry, which company acquired the Acme, right? So first we need to find out here which company acquired the Acme in 2023, and then for that company we will go and look for the Q4 revenue, right? So that is not one step process. Here we have two step process. First find the company and then find the Q4 revenue of that company, right? So two step process here. So normal RAG, standard RAG cannot do this, right? Now ambiguous queries, right? So for example, user can ask like this: what about the new policy? So policy could be about anything, right? Policy could be about leave, policy could be about refund, policy could be about something else, right? So standard RAG again will fail here, right? We need to do something for that, right? Now the multiple data sources, for example, we have the SQL database, then we can have the vector database, then we can do the web search as well, right? So we can do a lot of things. So it means that we have multiple sources. We can go and look into the SQL database, vector database, live web search, file system, something else, right? A lot of possibilities here. So normal standard RAG cannot go and pick the right one. So that is why we need to find a way to look into the right sources. Agentic RAG will enable us to do that, right? Now bad retrieval quality, right? Here sometimes the chunks that we get, that might not be relevant at all, because there we are just trying to find out which are like close to what we are looking for. So maybe there is nothing very close to that, and that is relevant for that question, right? There is nothing in the database, but that database will give you top 3, top 5 like that, right? So there will be a possibility that in that we don't have anything at all, right? So that will be something treated as the bad retrieval quality, right? So that is how the standard RAG will fail at all these places. So here comes the researcher, the agentic RAG to the rescue, right? Agentic RAG is a system where an AI agent drives the retrieval process. Instead of one fixed rule, retrieve and then generate, we will do everything in the loop. The agent decides every step in a loop. Loop is coming into the picture here, right? The agent decides, does this question even need a retrieval? For very simple question, we can simply reply, right? Now, which tools or data sources should we use? What is that source? What is that tool we should use for this query, right? So we will look for that. Now what should the search query look like? So maybe user has asked something, maybe we can manipulate or transform that query so that result will be better, right? So that is also something our AI agent can do, the agentic system can do, right? Now are the retrieved chunks good enough to answer? If no, again we can make a better query, look for different sources like that, right? Should we retrieve again with a better query, right? So that is also possible to do. Should we combine results from the multiple sources? Definitely that is something possible for some different type of questions, right? When can we stop and write the final answer? So everything will be decided by the agent here, right? So this is what the agentic RAG is. So let's try to understand the loop. So the user will ask the question, we will give it to the AI agent. AI agent will have the LLM, and that LLM will think that do I need to retrieve? If yes, which tool, what query, which source, something like that, right? So we'll use the tool, we will use whatever we have available, and then we will return the chunks to the again to the AI agent, which is the LLM. Around the LLM we have built that AI agent. It will evaluate good enough, okay, not good enough, retrieve again with the new query, right? So this will keep on running in the loop. Definitely we cannot run the infinite loop. We will have to put a limit of maximum number of steps that the loop will follow, right? So like that we can do. So here we can see, right, the 3 building block. So first one is the agent that is built around the LLM, right? So LLM is a brain. So LLM will think and tell what to do. And then we have the tools that is given to that agent. as a hands, what tools to use, where to look, everything will be decided by the LLM. And then we have the workflow, which is around the loop, right? So like that. So there are three blocks that we have just discussed, right? A agent, that will be around the LLM, the tools that A agents or LLM can recommend. A agent will call that tool, and then we will have the loop for the workflow, right? A very simple example. So let's take again the same thing. What was the Q4 revenue of the company that acquired Acme in 2023? So first we will find out which company acquired the Acme, right? So the agent reads the question, it thinks, okay, this is a multi-hop question, so I need to find first who acquired the Acme in 2023. The agent recommends web search tool with the query company that acquired Acme in 2023. Now the web search will return this, exactly this, right? Now the agent update its plan. Now it needs the Globex Q4 2023 revenue, right? The agent recommends a vector search tool over the internal financial report with the query Globex Q4 2023 revenue. So this is a multi-step question, right? So we cannot simply answer in one query, right? So we'll have to divide in multiple steps, and this is what the LLM brain will do for all of us, right? Agentic behavior, right? Here, the vector search returns the chunks, and then finally we will evaluate whether the answer is there or not, and then we will generate the final grounded answer, and that we will give it to the user, right? So this is how the agentic RAG will be helpful in this case where we have these types of questions, right? Normal standard RAG cannot solve all these types of questions, right? And so this was all about the agentic RAG and the difference over the standard RAG, and definitely agentic RAG is something that everyone has started using. So there are a few more things that you can go through if you want to, right? But from the agentic RAG perspective, whatever was the important, I have already discussed in this video. Now you can go through different types, the common patterns, and then you can again go through the standard RAG versus in the tabular form. Here we have, and when to use the agentic RAG, right? The multi-hop question, the multiple sources, ambiguous type of query, the quality of the retrieval matters more than the latency, right? Because the researcher has to think more, right? And the agentic RAG is that researcher, and the system needs to decide if the retrieval is even needed, right? So for nowadays everyone uses the agentic RAG, so no one uses the standard RAG, right? So this was all about the agentic RAG system. So make a habit of coming to this Outcome School website daily morning and read one blog a day, right? So that will make you great within 6 months, right? So that's it for this video, and I will see you in the next video.